So the Viltrumites are among us. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So I just finished Invincible Season 4 Episode 8, and man, have I got some thoughts. First, let me say this was a great conclusion to this season, to a very strong season, I would say. I do not think it's crazy to say that this is the second best season after Season 1, of course. This season had all the moments, the intense ones, the emotional ones, the action-packed ones. Okay, so we found out pretty much at the end of episode 7 that the Viltrumites, the remaining 37, now we know it's 37 Viltrumites, that they were heading for Earth. Now Mark, Nolan, they were all pretty far away from Earth. We see Mark's got some PTSD, you know, he's daydreaming about some terrible things, having nightmares it seems. He's going through it, man, and he's seeing things that we don't know at this point whether or not they're true. So as soon as they get within Earth's airspace, he speeds in there to make sure everything's all right. And I mean, yeah, to their surprise, to our surprise, yeah, everything's still intact. Everyone goes to check on their loved ones. Zoe goes to check on her dad. Mark and Nolan go check on Debbie. After that, Mark goes and checks on Eve. We already knew that Eve was pregnant, but she didn't tell Mark before he left. So, you know, they have a little moment where she finally tells him, hey, I had an abortion. And I gotta say, man, that scene was just very powerful. It almost got me. Eve was just explaining to him how, you know, she felt alone. She was too scared to tell Mark before he even left. Also because she wanted him to focus on just getting back alive and not worrying about her. But with doing that, she just couldn't handle having a child. So she made a decision, and yeah, we also see and hear from her that she's also been going through it. You know, we see her physical appearance. She's gained some weight. She's still looking fine. Okay. I feel like we're going to see some people online try to criticize her on this. Okay. Let's just stop there. Now, after Eve broke the news to Mark, I actually wasn't sure how he would feel. I wasn't sure if he would be mad or maybe disappointed in himself, but it turns out he was just really mainly disappointed in himself. The fact that he wasn't there. He, of course, wishes he could be there. That's partly why Eve didn't tell him. You know, if she told him, then he would have wanted to stay, and they both knew that he had to go. Even though, you know, in hindsight now, him going didn't really do exactly what they all planned on doing. It didn't really solve all of their issues. But remember, hindsight 2020. And now Mark was kind of just riddled with guilt, you know, but later on they have a nice little scene together where she's pretty much just trying to make him feel better. She embraces him because, you know, he of course is just riddled with guilt with not being there. I don't read the comics, but I have seen certain things in the comics, you know, I guess little spoilers here and there, nothing too major. With Eve, I knew she was gonna be pregnant. I knew, you know, she was gonna have a change in her body. What I didn't know is whether or not she was going to have the baby. Now, we didn't know how much time had passed, and I was saying that it was most likely going to be between 5 and 6 months, something like that they were gone on Earth. We later find out that they were gone for 10 months, but we found this information out after she had an abortion. So I was thinking maybe it's possible, you know, it's actually been more than 5 or 6 months. It's been like, you know, 12 months or something like that. She had the kid, hasn't told Mark yet, or she had an abortion. It had to be either or, because with her physical appearance, you would be able to tell if she's pregnant. She wouldn't only look like she just put on some weight, you know? But I'm glad I didn't get spoiled with this. Invincible fans seem to just love spoiling stuff from the comics. So yeah, this is something I'm glad I got to just see in the show. This entire episode was just pretty much Mark catching up with everybody, Nolan catching up with everybody, and I really enjoyed it. I think after a lot of fighting, we kind of just needed to calm down a little bit, have some conversation, talk, update everyone on the situation at hand. So we see Nolan go and talk to Debbie again. We see Nolan go and talk to Cecil. The two haven't talked for a very long time. They haven't interacted since season 1, since he left. When the two finally meet again, Nolan tries to, you know, come closer and approach Cecil, but you know, naturally Cecil gets a little scared because of everything he's done, and it's just like, whoa, okay, man, you can stop right there. And you can see with Cecil, and also when Nolan is talking to Debbie, that, you know, Nolan just feels kind of sad that people are scared of him now. They feel like they don't know him anymore. He even tells Debbie, hey, I don't want you to treat me like you don't know me, you know? Of course, everyone has the right to feel this way because he did lie to them for, what, 20 years? But it's nice to see this character development, this side of Nolan that we haven't really got to see too much. The character of Omni-Man and Nolan Grayson, I feel, could have been done a lot different and maybe even worse, but I feel what they did with this character, such a good move, you know? I think a lot of us feel the same way as someone like Debbie or Mark or Oliver or even Cecil, where we might want to dislike him, maybe even hate him, but because we know him, you know, pretty much so well, we know him from season 1, we all kind of just we're almost like, we almost feel like we're forced to like him, you know? And that's probably because we do like him, even regardless of what he's done, you know, on Earth and not on Earth. But okay, fast forwarding to the end of the episode, right? Eve tells Mark to go fly a little bit, clear his head, you know, don't go looking for a fight or anything like that. Just clear your head. He takes her advice and goes and does that. And I guess I should mention a little more that Mark throughout this episode is just, you know, experiencing some PTSD. He's seeing things that actually aren't there. He thinks he sees the Viltrumites attacking people, destroying the city. You know, that's kind of how the episode opens. It opens with all of the, well, most of the Viltrumites just attacking his city, killing countless people. And he gets these sort of attacks periodically throughout the episode, and it also happens while he goes out and is flying, trying to clear his head. He gets this sort of attack. He tries to calm down, focus, close his eyes, open his eyes. He sees Thrag. He thinks he sees Thrag, but it's actually Thrag there. So while Mark, Nolan, and everyone else have thought the Viltrumites have yet to reach Earth, they were wrong. They've been on Earth for some time now. So yeah, Mark quickly realizes that he actually sees Thrag there, and he attacks him. He punches him a bunch of times. Thrag doesn't do anything. He lets Mark punch him, and then he just says, stop. And, you know, he just wants to talk to Mark. Thrag then goes on to say, yes, we've been on this planet. We're here. Don't want to destroy the planet, but what we will do is live amongst you while we repopulate. He essentially gives Mark an ultimatum, right? He gives them essentially one option, and that's to just leave them be, let them do their thing, live amongst the humans, let them repopulate, do as they please, so they can rebuild the numbers, you know, build back up the Viltrum Empire. And in exchange, they just won't do anything. They won't help people. They won't hurt people. They'll just live normal lives like normal human beings. Thrag asks Mark, do you agree to these terms? And I think we all knew how Mark would react, okay? He didn't take that lightly. He's like, you know, you think I'm just gonna let you live amongst us and breed and, you know, just try to rebuild the empire back again? He's about to say, no, I don't agree to your terms, but he quickly like realizes, right, you know, those flashes he was getting beforehand, you know, of like, you know, Anissa and all these other people just killing a bunch of people on Earth, you know, and then he lands on Eve. He sees Eve. He's like, okay, I agree to your terms, man, and very reluctantly. And he's just, you know, he doesn't want to do it, but really, what choice does he have? You know, I really don't like using that term, like you have no choice, or, you know, there's only one choice, and that's to do this. But in this case, Mark and everyone else are actually powerless against these Viltrumites. Even if they were to take everyone out, right, and leave one Viltrumite left, that being Thrag. Thrag is enough to absolutely decimate the Earth, kill anyone he wants to. So Mark agrees to the terms. Thrag says, okay, you're not going to hear from me again, okay? And then he just leaves. And that's where the episode ends. This was my theory, especially, you know, right at the end of episode 7. After they destroyed Viltrum, I didn't think they would just head to Earth and destroy Earth like an eye for an eye type thing. After Thrag, you know, decides not to kill Nolan, not to kill Mark, he says, you know, we are too few already. Like, I'm not going to kill these two guys. I'm just going to leave them be. And they flew away. And we find out that they were heading to Earth. At least we thought they were, and we were correct in doing so. Now, really the most logical thing they could do is just head there, go in hiding, and repopulate. Essentially do what Nolan did, now on a larger scale with 37 Viltrumites there. And there's most likely no ulterior motive. It's literally just to repopulate. If they wanted to do anything else, they could do it. They could do whatever they want. You know, if they want to build some sort of super weapon, they could go do it. But if they want to repopulate, yes, they need people to do so. They cannot, you know, forcefully. I guess, you know, they could, but, you know, maybe we ain't going that direction. The most logical thing to do is just to live amongst them. You know, the amount of time they live is like forever compared to a normal human being, right? So they can just stay there for however long they need to, have as many kids as they need to, and eventually the numbers will rise. But I kind of just want to put out like this sort of review type thing, right? Nothing too formal or anything like that, just talking about it, speaking my thoughts. It was a very good episode. Again, I think we needed this episode. A lot of action. We've had a lot of action so far. This episode was very much just kind of talking to each other, you know, catching up people on everything. One thing I did find pretty funny was the fact that Mark didn't bring up Conquest to Cecil. I guess, you know, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't mean much, especially when Conquest is dead. Also, it's nice to see Mark, you know, seemingly having some trust back in Cecil after everything that went on. He even goes to him pretty much asking if he can give him a therapist. You know, Cecil has offered this to Mark before in case he ever needed it, but, you know, he never did. Now with, you know, what's going on, this PTSD, he's seeing a lot of things. he asked Cecil if he can, if he can find someone to talk to him. Oh yeah, I should probably mention that Debbie left with Nolan. They're headed back to Telescria to, check on Oliver. Alan is staying there along with Telia. So yeah, they have no clue what's going on. Like, they think the Viltrumites are somewhere in space, hiding, doing whatever, when they're just chilling on Earth. Man, now we gotta wait a whole year. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let me know how you thought about this season so far. For me personally, I think it's season 1, then season 4. This season was really good. I think in terms of the type of moments it had, it was, either best or just the second best. So yeah, let me know in the comments. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, like it up, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.